Hello again. I know it's been a while. When last I posted, I was living in my old place, which I affectionately called the Van Down by the River, homage to the late great Chris Farley. In the last 2 weeks, I have finally moved and I'm trying to get settled in at my new place, which I affectionately call the Cabin in the Woods. In any event, it's been quite the task. As you can see behind me, I'm trying to get my library organized again. But in the meantime, I had a local book finding adventure that I wanted to talk about. Um, when I was moving in to the new place, I happened to notice on like the third or fourth trip, going back and forth, carrying furniture, personal items, etc., that there was a neighborhood little free library that seemed to be just cram packed, less than a mile from where I moved. And I finally, just a few days ago, got to check it out, and it was indeed completely full. Um, Two shelves. The bottom shelf was stacked with books, mostly paperbacks, three deep, 3 rows deep, and the top, just as full. Uh, Took a bit to go through, but I went through it. Found 4 books that I was interested in, and of course, left 4 books in exchange, as is the ethical thing to do with a little free library, at the very least. And I told a friend about it, and uh, she was certain you're going to strike gold there. There were so many books, and I said, "Well, I don't know about that, but maybe some silver." But in a sense, after I got these 4 books back home and took a look at them, I think I may have found a little bit of gold. So anyway, I wanted to talk about those 4 books that I found. The first is one I've found and owned many times. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Depending on whether you're old school or new school, either the third or the fifth book in the Chronicles of Narnia. Fifth, if you're talking chronologically in the story. Third, if you're talking about publication order. And to me, it'll always be the third book. And it is most certainly my favorite book in the series. Very straightforward quest story. I always really enjoyed it. Um, it's set basically in a sea voyage to the farthest ends of the world that is in Narnia. Um, Introduces the character of Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and of course has one of the very best opening lines of any novel anywhere. The first line reads, "There was a boy called Eustace Clarence Scrubb, and he almost deserved it." And at that point in his life, Eustace really did deserve that. But anyway, found that. I already have an edition that I like, so that one will get donated, and hopefully the Hatter Bookstore will find a good home for it. Second thing I found was a collection of novellas of Herman Melville. Um, as you can see, Bartleby the Scrivener, Benito Sereno, and Billy Budd. I'm somewhat familiar with Billy Budd. Billy Budd was one of the last things that Herman Melville wrote after taking a very long break from writing prose. He died, leaving it unfinished. That was the only one I'm familiar with. And just doing a quick check on the other 2 stories, they are novellas from the 1850s. Um, Bartleby the Scrivener is a story about Wall Street and, commodities, stock trading, apparently. And Benito Sereno is a fictional account of a revolt on a Spanish slave ship. Like I said, not familiar at all with the first 2 stories, passingly familiar with Billy Budd. Uh, like I said, I know at least one copy of Billy Budd, so I'm going to let this one go as well and donate it. And once again, it's classic, and we're in a town with three, well, in a broad area with 3 colleges or universities. I'm sure somebody's going to have a need for some good Melville short fiction. The third book I found was this very interesting 150th anniversary edition of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. Somewhat controversial at the time it was first written. Uh, the very first edition was self published, and over the course of his lifetime, Walt Whitman published, depending on how you count it, 6 to 9 editions of Leaves of Grass. Uh, this is the 150th anniversary of the very first one. The very first edition of Leaves of Grass was only like 90 odd pages long. Um, and he added to it in later editions throughout his life. But this is a 150th anniversary, uh, printed, I believe, in 2005, including facsimile pages of the original book and illustration from that very first edition. I've also seen 150th anniversary editions of the next edition, which was printed in 1860, I should say. In any event, this was a very nice copy, and I thought it'd make a good potential sale for the Hatter, so to the Hatter it will go. Finally, the potential gold, depending on how you classify gold, um, that I found. It's a copy of Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. You can see it was by a publishing imprint I was not familiar with, Flamingo, a inset of or an imprint of HarperCollins Publishers. This is a UK edition. I can see the price when this one was printed, I believe, in 2001, and this is a first edition, first printing of that 2001 edition, in what they're calling the Flamingo 60s Classic line. Hopefully you can see if it will focus. The price is in British pounds. £4.99 in 2001. Um, uh, I snagged it. I already have a copy of Tropic of Cancer. Very controversial novel. Um, Spawned a series of centerly cases and lawsuits throughout the United States and most of the Western world after its publication. This book was the subject of a lawsuit that went straight, well, eventually went to the United States Supreme Court, where it was ruled to be not obscene and therefore could legally be published and distributed in the United States. Closer inspection revealed this, though. That is a stamp from Shakespeare and Company, a new and used bookstore located in Paris on the Seine River. And you'll see that this stamp has written Sylvia Beach Whitman Foundation. Sylvia Beach Whitman is the current proprietor of Shakespeare and Company. She ran it along with her father, beginning, I think, in the early 2000s, so for about 20 years. When she was fairly young, I think she was only 21 at the time. But she is named after Sandra Beach, Sylvia Beach, I should say. Sylvia Beach, who owned the original Shakespeare and Company bookstore in Paris, France, and became famous for being as the publisher of the first edition of Ulysses by, how can I draw a blank? By James Joyce, of course. This is especially interesting to me because this is the second time I have encountered a book printed, published in England, sold by Shakespeare and Company in Paris, and eventually winding up in southern West Virginia. I had a video some months back about a Tolkien atlas that I found that that presented the same provenance. But in any event, even more so pickled to find that when I discovered what I actually had. crazy that this kind of literary lightning would strike me twice in, you know, this year, both for free. Or in essence, I had to trade for this one, but free books that took that very circuitous route to get to southern West Virginia. Um, in any event, I'm more than happy with the edition that I have already. So once again, all four of these books are going to go to the Hatter Bookshop, where I hope, and I'm fairly confident they'll be able to find them good and new homes. Um, anyway, hope this video turns out well. I'm experimenting with where to film these things here at the cabin in the woods, with light and sound and all those sorts of things. But in any event, it's good to be back, and I will talk to you again very soon. Thank you.